This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Kidnappers, a community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.
Good morning, this is Heiko from the Acupuncture On Air show. This is our first show for the year. Coming up for the Year of the Rat, which is, I don't actually know what it means, but it must be lucky. Every Chinese year is lucky in some way. Today, of course, we're lucky because we're talking with Sohial Farzam, who's half of the Acu Guys from Melbourne in Australia. Good morning, Sohial. How are you?
Good morning, Heiko. Good morning, Jill. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're all really good here, and surprisingly, it's bloody cold here. So it's amazing weather, and shocking to hear over there about in Australia. So Melbourne getting a lot of smoke?
Well, actually, just in the last week, it started to get a little bit more smoke. But for example, my brother's in Canberra, so they've been experiencing a lot more, wearing masks. And I think I've seen a few people, even in Melbourne, slowly starting to wear masks.
Yeah, no,
today's a little bit clearer, but it has definitely been a little bit more smoky here as well.
Yeah, that's shocking. We're going to talk a little bit later about the seminar that you and Hamish will be presenting in Auckland at the end of March, but at the end of February, I should say. But first, just a few questions about you guys, the Acu Guys. Now, you're both registered acupuncturists and practicing in Melbourne, Australia, and also both teaching acupuncture. So just tell us a little bit about that background and how it got there.
Yeah, sure. So we are registered acupuncturists here in Australia, and at the same time, we both actually started lecturing quite early in our careers. And fortunately, we were actually teaching many of the same subjects at the same time. So we sort of had great connection and friendship built from scratch from the early on in our career. And so within our practice and also lecturing, we noticed that there was quite a bit of a gap, especially in the business side of things. So we ended up starting to do some seminars around, how to build a kind of a winning health practice in many areas. And next to that, of course, we also do some lecturing on the side for actual Chinese medical technique and philosophy and some of the areas that we focus on. For example, myself is in psycho-emotional well-being, and Hamish is also in musculoskeletal and sports medicine. So from early on, we actually started to do a lot of ventures together.
That's fantastic. And because I do know that you've done a lot of seminars already starting in New Zealand, but you've done a lot in Australia. I think you've lectured Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, whatever. I'm just wondering, do you even know how many workshops you've done now?
Well, I don't know. I think we've got the count for probably the highest amount of workshops. So, because we have a range of topics that we talk about, and so between us, we do quite a number of workshops. And like you said, we started off in Australia, and then obviously moved to New Zealand. And last year, I was fortunate to go to Europe as well, and we've got some plans for US and Asia and back to Europe. So look, we do a number of workshops, but they're all things that is based on feedback. So lecturing for a long time, students, you learn a lot from students, of course, and you get to see where there's a lot of gaps in the industry and what people want to learn. And of course, from having some clinical experience, it really helps to delve into that and share your clinical experience rather than just what you learn from books.
Yeah, because the workshop, the seminar that's coming up here in Auckland now, it's the first time you've actually presented it here in New Zealand, and it has the title of like Turbocharged Your Health Practice. Now, tell us a bit about that, because obviously you're not teaching us technique, how to treat depression or how to treat tennis elbow, but this is sort of focused on like getting a better practice. So just in a nutshell, just fire away.
Yeah, so what you said is quite accurate. So the reason why we're not teaching technique is actually because there's so many seminars, including obviously our own, that we do teach actual Chinese medical technique or any other science. But the problem is, it's one thing to have really good technique, but it's another thing to actually get clients to actually use that and practice that technique on. And that's really how we started. So about 10 years ago, we were finishing a lecture at university here in Melbourne, and there was quite a few questions in the last class we had for the day where people were asking about, especially, fourth-year students who were about to go out, And you can just sense, obviously, a massive low self-esteem and uncertainty in going into practice. And, of course, because we don't get a lot of business skills in university when we're studying, we realized, well, this is something that we can probably help students with. And it was really good to see that students were asking for this, so there was definitely a need for it. And so 10 years ago, we started doing this once a year, and then we had a mentoring program at the same time. So almost every year since then, we've been doing this, one-day seminar, occasionally 2 days, depending on the location we're doing it in. And so it's really about what's missing in the industry, and that's really about, you can learn as much as you want in terms of your technique, but ultimately, if you don't know how to build a relationship with a client, you don't know how to build rapport, if you don't know how to, be confident in communicating your actual skills to the client and what's needed from the client, and really just market your products and services, it's a bit hard, and that's what we focus on to help, postgraduates, but also long-term practitioners who have trouble building their practice, with just some platforms and avenues to really, boost their branding and their client profile and really get out there and do what they love best, make it easier for them.
Because I know that when I graduated, and I'm talking, my sort of last year was sort of 83 and 84, and we had just in the very last year we had a half-hour lecture from two accountants, and
wow.
And it was like this sort of machine gun lecture in half an hour. It says, well, either you set up a company or you set up a partnership, or you can go as a sole trader and you blah blah. You do this, you do these are the advantages, these are the disadvantages, and you do a business plan to work out your costs. And any questions, that's it. Sort of
wow.
hand out a business card, and and then we went out there and we didn't have a clue, even what a commercial lease was, So yeah, it's come a long way since then, but I think what of getting back to you is what a lot of people think, and practitioners also don't like to admit, is that in the end they are only human. In the end, they have low self-esteem, they lack confidence. They feel jealous, they get irritable, they get angry. They got their own stuff that they have to work through, and in particular, I think a lot out there is what I don't want to use too much of a label, but poverty consciousness, coming from lack of self-esteem, not having the confidence to even to charge what you're worth, or even many practitioners get trapped into not even charging at all. And I think it's a great step, because we've had quite a number of registrations already from people, and I think they're brave enough to actually admit they need help with something out there. And as you said, it's great to have done every seminar on how to treat tennis elbow, but unless you have the confidence to actually deal with the patient and thing, it's not worth. But I think you guys can really help with this. Want of a better word, poverty consciousness, lack of self-esteem for practitioners. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, everything you said is really related. So the reason there may be poverty consciousness in the first place is possibly because of those issues around self-esteem and low confidence. And, I don't think, all these things are random. These things have a story in someone's life. They all started from a point. Perhaps growing up you had some financial difficulties, family had some financial difficulties, or maybe, you had an influence where people thought money is, the classic theme of, the source of evil, and, people are greedy who are always about money, and, things of this nature. So all these things embedded in someone's mind over time really becomes part of their characteristic trait. And so when they go into an area where they're servicing someone, so in this case, we're servicing people in their health, we're helping them, we somehow believe that, we shouldn't really charge that much, let alone anything, for what we do, because, especially in our field, because it's around healing. So a lot of, I guess, natural healers have some sort of challenges around that, again, which is okay because there's a story behind it, but it is important to overcome these challenges, because, in effect, we are giving a valuable service. And the truth is that unless we're valuing what we do, clients aren't going to also value what we do. So the value that we can bring into the market is really proportionate to how we feel about that ourselves. And so clients in the universe will actually really declare that value for you proportionate to how you and what you declare for yourself. And so we tackled, the self-esteem issues, the low confidence issues, these issues around money and money blocks. Ultimately, if you read any book on wealth building, some of the major blocks around money is really just guilt and shame.
No, that's
so
fantastic,
You might have done something in the past that you feel guilty about, and what you're doing in effect now is really trying to compensate for the sin of having done something in the past that you feel bad about, and you're taking that out on yourself and your services, sabotaging yourself in order to win a client rather than trying to increase the value of your contribution in order to get a better deal. So there's a big difference, and these are definitely the first things actually we cover in the seminar.
That's really good. Now, I know that you've also done other workshops outside, this is for yourself, outside of the acupuncture profession. I guess you'd label them as self-help, increase your self-esteem, improve your sales. And I think you've done different ones. Is it for model agencies and sales? So tell us a bit about some of the other these.
Yeah, for sure.
Sohial prompt up the.
Yeah, of course. So I did some videos on YouTube a while back. On topics of self-development, personal cultivation, and I was sort of recruited by a friend who wanted me to do a quick little chat with another friend about goal setting and the mindset behind goal setting, and it really started from there about probably 7 years ago, and I ended up getting hired to do something for a construction company. And I thought, okay, well, this is quite good. And what I found was that most of these big companies and corporations who wanted to learn more about mindset rather than just selling. Selling always came after. And so that was interesting for me. So I learned more and more myself, of course. And I ended up doing a lot more of this kind of self-development, personal development work in next to, marketing and selling, but more so in terms of the mindset strategies and the psychology of marketing and selling. And so fortunately, I've had the experience to teach a lot of this to a diverse range of, networks such as modeling, like you said, trade, construction, telecommunications. So the concept applies because in business, we're all dealing with human beings. And ultimately, our ability to build relationships and rapport is the truth behind our success. The technical abilities come after. So, yeah, I do a long-term advanced mentoring program for some corporations and some individuals really seeking to, look more into this self-development, personal cultivation, psychology of winning and success and business. Yeah, so I've been involved in that for some time now.
Right. So really in the final analysis, this workshop that's coming up here sort of very soon in Auckland is sort of almost a summary of your own personal experience of how to improve success in practice and improve your lot in life. Is there anything else that we may have missed in this talk, just because we have a bit of time left? You can just let us know what you'll be presenting in the seminar so that some of the practitioners can get an idea of what's happening.
Sure. So it's a 2-day workshop, and it literally is a workshop, so it's not just theory. We're going to apply some tactics and go through some methodologies, and we're going to have everything in place so when practitioners go out the next morning on the Monday morning, they're able to apply and execute some of the things we cover. So really the main thing is that I will cover a lot of the mindset strategies, the personal development side of business, and my colleague Hamish will cover a lot of the actual strategic marketing. So, we look at email marketing, social media, we look at online, offline, we look at, really working with ideal clients. So it's really important in our concept that, you want to work with someone who's actually invested in their health as well and are willing to take responsibility and accountability to improve. So, people who are actually going to rave about you and really follow your instructions. So it's really important to go into ideal clients. There's so much stuff that we need to cover. Again, with mindset, we talk about fear, the goal setting, and living according to your values in business. Is business actual a value for you? Issues around money, self-image and motivation and inspiration, the difference between the two. So it's a pretty jam-packed 2 days, and we promise the audience that they're going to get definitely more than what they invest in, because the next morning when you go into practice, you'll be able to apply our strategies.
No, I said I'm really looking forward to it. So, but listen, thanks Sohial for coming and talking on the show, because I know it's early for you over there to get you up to record, so that's much appreciated. And thanks again. And
you're welcome.
We'll be seeing you up in Auckland in a couple of months. And
yeah, definitely look forward to coming back there and seeing you guys.
And just to close the show, I've just picked a Hawke's Bay band, bunch of young kids. They're still at school at Havelock High. They're called Arlo Mac, and they won the recent Rock Fest last year. And then with that, winning the competition, they had a professionally song recorded. The song is called "Ease My Mind." So I thought it's a fitting title for that workshop coming up.
Sounds great.
All right, all the best, and we'll here's the song, and we'll see everybody next week.
This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Kidnappers, a community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.